Yo, yo, yo. Hey, okay. What's up with YouTube? Yes. All right, y'all. What's up? It's Uncle P. It's Uncle P. I'm really live right now. So what I so what I'm trying to do is okay. We good on Twitch. We good on Twitch. Let me see Instagram. Uh, so what's up with Instagram? Come on, man. All right, we got to work on that. We live on Twitch. Let me see YouTube. Are we live on YouTube? What the? Why am I not live on YouTube? Oh, bad. Let me stop. Yes. Let's go. Hey, y'all calm yo. See, this is what I'm saying. When I'm trying to be productive, this is what happens. TikTok. Let's go. What's good, y'all? What's good? Yeah, man. I'm basically what I'm doing is I'm trying to make sure that I got all this stuff right. I know probably if y'all been if y'all checked in before, then y'all probably seen me messing around, man. So we just finna pop this off because I gotta get into it, man. I can't play around no more. Like I just gotta stop trying to get everything perfect, get through just get through the little hiccups and finally get it together, man. Start this streaming. So what we gonna do today is we're just gonna go over a few little topics, man. And the first topic is your boy Diddy. Your boy Diddy. Yeah, man. Yeah. Cassie, she took the stand today, so we gonna just go over this and see what they talking about. See what's going on with this, man. What is that? Get that off the screen.
Day 6 of the Diddy trial, and Cassie Ventura took the stand and testified for nearly a full day about her relationship with Diddy. And I believe that the testimony was more intense, more sensational, and I think more disturbing than I or just about anybody realized it was going to be. Derek, if you can for us, give us the highlights of Cassie's testimony. How did this go down? She was on the stand for better part of 5 or 6 hours today. What exactly happened?
Yeah, this really was a full day of testimony. It's the centerpiece of the prosecution's case. Cassie came to the stand. She is, of course, pregnant, and she was ready to testify about the full course of her relationship with Diddy. And remember, they were together for 10 years. This was a decade-long relationship, and that will come into play when the defense has an opportunity to cross-examine her and ask her about the terms of that relationship.
The whole idea of consent, yeah.
But this was her laying out the narrative in the prosecution's case in chief. And she squarely addresses that beating video in the Intercontinental Hotel in 2016. But even before then, they go back in time and said, when did these freak-offs really start? And she really painted a picture of the very first freak-off, where she says she was 22 years old. This occurred at one of Diddy's homes. She said it was highly directed. There was masquerade masks involved. There were escorts involved. There were at least 2 sessions in that first freak-off, and the session was over when the escort, who had been...
Why they call them freak-offs? Like, just call them what they are. They're pretty much like orgies, right? Which a lot of celebrities, they do this. So they trying to separate him for some reason. I mean, Diddy, listen, let me just Let me let it
paid
roll.
for the services was done, had sort of performed the services that they were paid for. She says that she felt as though she couldn't say no to these freak offs. She had dated Diddy for enough time at that point that saying no didn't seem like an option to her because he would get very angry. She was worried about sort of him blackmailing her potentially.
This is everything. Could she have left? And I think at some level the answer is yes. She could have gone to police. She was not physically restrained. She went out. She performed jobs. She traveled all around the world without him.
They dated. They were on red carpets together. They were in a relationship.
At any point, she could have physically left, gone to the police, gone to friends, gone to family, said, I want out. Apparently, none of that happened. Obviously, the defense is going to make a big deal about that. But
she would say psychologically, I felt trapped.
But and it's not
by that relationship.
It's not just, and there's a point to that, right?
There's a big point to it.
She testified to.
I look forward to you joining us at our
Commercials.
next investor webinar, where you can drill deeper into our 9 to 13% annual
Get
interest
out of
rate.
here.
Routine physical abuse, both during the freak offs and outside of the freak offs, certainly emotional abuse, and also her career prospects largely tied to him.
All right,
Yes.
so
And she also, just for what it's worth,
That's
knew him to be a
whack,
violent
bro.
person outside of her relationship with him. And I'm sure there was some element of fear there. But nevertheless, I think it's worth noting, because defense is sure is not going to make a big deal of it probably tomorrow, that at any point she could have gone to police, she could have gone to family, she could have gotten protection, and she didn't.
Remember, the first witness who came on yesterday, though, said that there was physical violence towards her, that he bore witness in hearing slapping during one occasion, said he could no longer perform sexually because it was so upsetting to him to see Diddy be violent with Cassie. So they have set up that some of this coercion, which might have been mental and in her subjective state of mind, she felt trapped. Some of it may have also been physical. We're really getting down to the brass tacks about what is coercion. You know, coercion is forcing someone against their will to do something, but it doesn't necessarily take place at gunpoint or knife point. These aren't Central Park rapes. This was in the context of a 10-year relationship. So it is hard to wrap your mind around, well, how could you be coerced into doing things you don't want for a 10-year span? So to establish that, they're going to really paint very vivid pictures of what the sexual terms of this relationship were. Were there promises and threats? She mentioned feeling like there could be blackmail. Was there monitoring and control? That's another form of potential coercion. And Diddy orchestrated these things, according to the prosecutors, and kept very tight tabs on how she did her nails. She testified that they had to look a certain way. Was there violence and intimidation? According to the first witness, there was some violence. And obviously, when you watch that beating video, that is certainly violent.
Well, let's leave that for a second, just because I think everything comes to a head with that video.
Yes.
There's so much before that, as you were mentioning, the nails.
I mean, Diddy, I'm sure you heard it before, but Diddy could have stopped all of this. He could have stopped all of this just by paying her the money she asked for. You know, when we saw that video of like him doing that to her in the hotel room, like, he was guilty immediately, at least in the court of public opinion. But it doesn't, after that, there was nothing he could say, because he had certain celebrities come out the woodworks and say, like, oh, they always trying to take a powerful man down, but it's nothing you could say after that. If you DDTing this woman in the hotel lobby, then what can we say? You the heel, you the villain.
He directed according to Cassie's testimony, directed every single element of the
How she
freak
looked.
offs.
Yeah.
How she looked, how her appearance was. He said it, according to her, he said, you look too Hispanic. I want you to change your hair. Every minute detail, where the man was to be, when he was going to have sex with her, what pre-sexual acts they were going to engage in together.
Man, to rich people, us regular people, we just pawns. To be honest, like, to a person like of Diddy's stature, no matter who you dealing with, who he was dealing with, pretty much probably 98% of people were pawns. And they're like little dolls, little toys to him, man. And man, this is crazy.
He had to literally drop into a bathtub full of baby oil because he liked seeing her slick during the sex.
A whole bathtub? A whole bathtub. I thought they were just rubbing it down. He said a bathtub? So you had to submerge yourself in the oil. This is insane.
Performances. And you
Oh
can
my
do all
God.
of
these things
legally.
consensually. You
can.
really can.
Right.
There
Which
are
is why
people-
the issue of coercion is so important, fundamental to the case.
It really is. I think part of the prosecution's description and eliciting testimony from her about how far from the norm some of these sexual acts were, in particular the urination episode. She really testified about sexual acts that involved being urinated on by multiple men, including Diddy.
Was it just men?
He was on R. Kelly timing too? This is wild. This is crazy. I mean, I kind of expected that. It's actually a lot of people who are into that. They call it golden showers. But I just can't imagine being in court and just having these things rolled out. Like, this is like the first key witness. So this is not even their ace right here. This is just to set the tone. They gonna pull somebody out of here, like somebody that we don't even know about, that's gonna say something crazy, man. And I really hope that we don't hear nothing about Biebs, man. I don't want to hear it.
And I couldn't quite figure that out.
I think it was just men. That's how I interpreted
That's what
it.
certainly what his preference was, to watch men have sex with their. I couldn't tell if there were women involved in it. Not that it really matters.
Yeah,
It certainly doesn't matter legally, but I just was curious about it.
Sure, unclear. And part of her testimony was, she said she was urinated on by two men at some point, one of them being Diddy. And when pressed, she said, I thought, did you want this? And she said, I thought it was obvious. Her word was obvious that I wouldn't want this.
Right.
So that is sort of getting into the realm of convincing those jurors sitting there, could anyone possibly want to be urinated on? She said at some point there was so much urine in her mouth, she began to choke. Could anyone, can the jurors believe that anyone would want this done? There are certain sexual acts and call them perversions or whatever, that are hard for people, ordinary people on that jury, to believe anyone could consent to.
And remember, the standard here is not.
This is the pink salt recipe that took me from 179 to 126
Come
in just
on,
weeks.
man.
You know what the best part is? It's natural, easy, has no side effects.
Could it theoretically be that she wanted all these things? That is certainly one way to look at it. But you're dealing with individual jurors who bring their own personal histories to every case, and they're going to be asked, do you think that a reasonable person would consent to this? Some people are going to say, yes, I think a reasonable person could. Some
They were saying they both were using drugs. Yeah, but I think a lot of people would, for money. Have you heard about what they be doing in Dubai? Like, yeah, I mean, getting waterboarded with urine is insane, but there's people of sound mind and body going to Dubai and getting similar things done. I'm not trying to say that she's not a victim. I'm just, if that's a question, then yes, it is. It's possible.
And maybe in New York, you might get some of those jurors. These are not prudes. This
Right.
is New York City. You're going to get some people who are worldly, cosmopolitan, and have
Got a freaky
sexual
ass
lives of their own.
jury.
as I was reading through the testimony today, I wrote down sort of 8 things that I think that the defense is going to try to get out of her on the stand tomorrow, and also certainly will argue in closing arguments. The umbrella is the whole thing was consensual, that she could have left at any time. She could have terminated the relationship at any time. Though it sometimes made her feel uncomfortable, she never outright refused to engage in the sex acts. In fact, she would sometimes assist in the selection of the sex workers. She would sometimes be the person who actually handed over money to the sex workers without Diddy's present. He would often not even be there. She would have to FaceTime in with him, or he would elect to FaceTime in to watch from afar. She never...
You mean I didn't know this. I didn't know that he was calling in. Like, he didn't even have to be present for the freak offs. He called in. He did it on Skype. Yeah, you a wild boy, man. You wild. This is insane. It's detected that the live chat didn't appear on your screen in the past 2 minutes. Try using a mobile device to view comments from your live chat. OMG.
told a family or a friend or a family member that she wanted to stop. She never went to police. Is it deviant? Yes. Is it shocking? Yes. But ultimately, the defense is going to argue it was always, at the end of the day, consensual.
I think you're right. In the defense, he's got very good lawyers. They're going to be able to score these points in their cross-examination of her, and they're going to be able to sort of puncture some of the narrative. They have to be very, very careful. We've talked about this before. She's a very sympathetic witness. Pregnant people are going to engender sympathy. As a matter of fact, Mark Agnifilo told the judge before the attorney for Diddy said, look, pregnancy is a wonderful thing. It's also a way that people engender sympathy. Now, he didn't say this in front of her, but he was informing the judge that this could be prejudicial to my client, just the way she looks.
What's the judge going to do about it? Hold the trial because she happens to be pregnant?
Can't do anything about it. It is just the nature of the beast.
But all of those defenses, in some way, I think, crumble in the face of the Cassie videotape. And we've been wondering forever how the prosecution was going to use the videotape from the Intercontinental Hotel, that horrific beating video, and why it was so important to their case beyond just the atmosphere. It makes him look like a monster. We get that. But was there relevant, pertinent testimony that was going to be impacted by that? And I think this is exactly where it comes. The idea of consent, I just laid it out how the defense is going to argue it. It does melt away when you see that video because of her testimony. Her testimony is that that day she was in a freak off. She was in the hotel room with Diddy and a male sex worker, and she endured all of the conduct that we've previously described. She said that there was a session 2 scheduled after session 1 and a session 2. There's going to be a break.
She wanted no part of it.
During the break, she said, I'm leaving. I do not want to be here anymore. I want to leave. And this is to my knowledge of her testimony, the first time she ever testified that she said, I don't want to be here anymore. She gathered up her things and she left, and he chased her down in the hallway, kicked the shit out of her, and then dragged her, kicking and screaming, literally kicking and screaming, back down the hallway by her hair into the room.
We
no longer have any argument of consent. If the jury believes her, which is, credibility is always an issue here. If the jury believes her, all the arguments that she didn't consent fly out the window.
That's right. That is forceful, violent. You will no longer have to play this dance out of whether or not she was in on the freak-offs. If she was trying to escape and he forcefully drags her back into a room, that's a rough day for Diddy. Now, Diddy, I think, will try to establish that something else happened entirely, that it had to do with him seeing something on a cell phone.
They had a mutually violent relationship. Part of the course of their conduct, that they would often have these kind of like almost consensual, non-consensual kind of actions together then?
He needs to do that.
Yes.
I mean, frankly, that is the death knell for Diddy. If she is credible on this point about wanting to leave that freak off, expressing verbally that she wanted to leave, trying to leave down the hallway and being dragged back in, that's really game, set, match. I do also want to point out some of the testimony she said about after the freak-offs. There's circumstantial evidence that these things weren't entirely sort of consensual acts. She described that there was baby oil all over the walls, and she said there would sometimes be blood on the linens.
Because
of the violent nature of these sex acts and the beating.
Hold on. And one other thing. She also said that he liked it when she was on her period.
I didn't.
You didn't read that part?
I didn't remember that part of the testimony.
I got this from the New York Times.
Well, then that's not going to be as helpful.
They tested. Well, no, there was some of that, but also he would schedule these things often during.
Two weeks after the treatment is completed.
We got to figure out.
Besides,
we got to figure out.